reflection, climbing in the mist. I'm willing to take the risk. Your smile, my eyes, a free exchange. Your kiss.
Good afternoon. This is Harry Colbert Jr. with Insight News, and we are at the Marcus Garvey House. These are the front room sessions, and you were listening to Liz Gray. The song is called Free Exchange, and that's what we intend to have here today, is a free exchange of ideas, thoughts, and hopefully gain some understanding on a topic that is very near and dear to our heart here at Insight, which is education. And we have with us Adebisi Wilson. She's with the Innocent Classroom, and we're going to talk about Innocent Classroom, what it means to the community, how others can become involved, and we're going to get my phone to quit ringing. And we're just going to really get into it in terms of what Innocent Classroom is. So first, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate it. Tell the viewer, what is Innocent Classroom?
So Innocent Classroom is a teacher training that is a child-specific response to a diverse classroom. So it really rebuilds the relationship between educator and students in order to affect outcomes, namely the achievement gap.
Okay. And how did it get started?
It started about 7 years ago, and it was created and founded by Alex Pate, who's a writer. He's a writer. He was a professor at the University of Minnesota. I know sometimes, lots of places call themselves the U, but here in Minnesota is the University of Minnesota. But he was a professor there, and he, through his writing, had explored these concepts of innocence and guilt and goodness, and through that, understood better why it was that he found himself not going places or holding himself back, or maybe even feeling a lot of guilt about things that he had not done in his life, places he wouldn't go, things he wouldn't do. And it was because he had lost his innocence at a very young age. And then through that exploration and writing, he developed the Innocent Classroom, which is a way to help educators build intentional, authentic relationships with students in order to construct an environment of innocence for them.
So Innocent Classroom is a teacher training.
It is.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And tell me how the training comes about. Is it, like districts get involved with it? Is it an individual teacher that can one-on-one get this training? How does that occur?
Yeah, so it actually, oftentimes we do work with districts. Sometimes we work with schools, individual schools, to bring the training, but we work directly with the teachers. The training is given directly to the teachers. We don't work with students at all. But sometimes we have open cohorts where teachers can just sign up, and actually we do have one coming up. There is a fee involved, but you get CEUs for it, so those are educator credits. But teachers can sign up themselves if we have an open cohort. Teachers can get it through their schools if their schools provide it. Oftentimes we do whole schools because it's about transforming a culture, and then sometimes we do it with the district.
So with the training, is it a day? Does it stretch out?
It's over time.
Okay.
It's over time because we call it a practice. And you're building your practice, your Innocent Classroom practice. And so it's over 4 or 5 sessions. And in between, we have work for the teachers to do to practice building those intentional, authentic relationships.
Okay. And now it started in Minnesota, but it's in other states as well.
Absolutely, yeah. So actually our first training, I think a lot of the prep was done in Minnesota. And some of the pilots were done in Minnesota, but it started the full training in Omaha, Nebraska. Okay. And now we're here in Minnesota still, and we've spread throughout the Twin Cities and St. Cloud. And then we're also in California, Nevada, Rhode Island, Illinois, and Wisconsin.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. In just 7 years?
In just 7 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've grown. And everywhere we go, teachers are ready and to engage and do the work. and excited about it because it's building those relationships that they've always wanted to build.
What are the teachers saying that they got out of Innocent Classroom that they were lacking before they engaged?
Yeah. So what we see is that teachers feel like they're able to build relationships with students who they didn't think that they could before. That there are a lot fewer referrals. They're sending a lot fewer kids out of their classroom, getting frustrated when they have to send a kid out because they can't build this relationship with them. We see improved academic mindset. Teachers report that their students are just more engaged academically, and that they have improved more academic growth because of Innocent Classroom. So we've worked all over the Twin Cities. We've done a lot of work in St. Paul. We've trained 5 whole schools in St. Paul. And one of them is John A. Johnson, which is on the east side of St. Paul. And last year, or actually in the winter time, in February, we had a panel where the principal came, Lisa Grunwald, and she shared with us some of the impact that it had had at her school. And we were there over several years doing this work. The first year is constructing, the second year we go deeper, and then the third year we go even deeper. And what she said, I'll read a quote from Lisa about the impact that Innocent Classroom had in her space and this relationship building practice had in her space. She said, we just drilled down some of our literacy data. So she's talking about actually looking at the data from in the school. We have about 4 teachers who are rock stars with Innocent Classroom. I took a look at their data compared to their teaching partners, and it was exponential growth. I suspected it, but it was amazing to see it. We have just 2 sections of first grade. One of the teachers came to us this year, but she went through Innocent Classroom over the summer. She just fully embodies everything about it. She said to me, 100% of my kids are going to grow this year. She really believes it and finds their good and helps them get them and gives it to them. When I was looking at her data, 50% of her kids from September to now, which was February of this year, so September 2018 to February 2019, grew over a year's growth, some a year and a half, compared to her teaching partners, which was only 12%. And then I looked at a 3rd grade teacher. She has had 42% of her kids with the same high growth, a year and a half's growth in this short amount of time. And her teaching partners were 13% and 10%. It works. This 3rd grade teacher also has the highest number of perfect attendance days since November 12th. The next closest person has 7. And so, yeah, these are the words of Lisa Grunwald, who was a principal at John A. Johnson, about the impact that this has had, and that building those relationships has transformed their students' academic engagement as well as even their attendance in school.
And when we're talking about this, we're being specific in talking about students of color, in particular, a lot of African American students,
Yeah.
and we're talking about teachers who are not of color,
Yeah.
and how they relate to one another.
Yeah.
And I shared with you a story when we were talking, just kind of briefly, and I was talking about how an incident like that impacted my, I guess, my entire life. When I was my freshman year, I went to a high school. I was deseged out from a city school to a county school. So I was going from a traditionally almost all black experience, or it's certainly if not all black, a good number of black students and staff, to an almost all white experience. And my counselor was looking at my test scores, and I had scored very well on the basic essential skills test.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's looking and she's saying, okay, you're great, you're doing this, that, and the other. What do you want to do? And I said, well, I want to go to Stanford and I want to become a lawyer. And she said, well, Stanford only accepts 2% of the students, so let's look at something else. And immediately, I was deflated. And immediately, I said, well, let's do something else.
Yeah.
It just impacted me that much. I didn't, at 13 going on 14 years old, have the wherewithal in myself to say, no, I'm going to Stanford.
Right.
And it wasn't something that I went home and told my grandmother, like, do you know such and such said? I just internalized
Yeah.
it. And so that's just anecdote to show the impact that teachers, counselors have on our young children's
Yeah.
lives.
Yeah, and maybe she meant well, right? Like maybe
Right.
she just wanted to protect you because she knew 98% of the kids didn't get in. But one, we children are, especially our children of color, need to believe
Exactly.
that they have the potential, that the world is open to them, right? And if she had known you better, if you had a stronger relationship, and she knew that you will soar, you will achieve, you will do anything, and if you fail at it, that's okay. You go out there and you try, and if you succeed, that's even better, right? Because that's going to build your confidence even more. And it's so important that we believe in ourselves, that our children truly believe in themselves, and that nugget that a teacher can give can be so powerful. It has stayed with you all these years.
Right.
That little nugget of positivity can stay with you, and that little nugget of, oh my gosh, I'm just not good enough can stay with you. And we want those nuggets of positivity, like belief in themselves, to be reinforced positively constantly in this classroom.
What is it that, like, the instructors are saying when it comes to Innocent Classroom? What are they saying is helping turn the corner for them and their mindset?
It's this sense of empathy. So what we build is empathy within the classroom, or within our sessions. We help teachers to understand and really appreciate their own good as well as the students' good. And that sense of empathy, I think, really understanding and really connecting with a child and seeing who they truly are and seeing that shine in their classroom is what really transforms it for them.
And I guess it's that same sense of empathy that would help keep a teacher from calling 911 on a 5-year-old.
That's right. That's right. That's right, because they're 5.
Right.
They're
So-
babies.
Yeah, and so I guess going all the way back to it, it's innocence.
That's right.
Like seeing the innocence in us. And I know particularly when it comes to black males, especially when we're growing at a larger rate and things of that nature, all of a sudden that innocence gets stripped from us and we're seen as this being and not as Bill or William or
Yep.
Dante or whomever you are as a person.
Yeah, yeah. That innocence is taken away at such a young age. There's this story that Alex tells about how he was skipping, and the slightest, like you have to be innocent in order to skip, because the slightest bit of guilt or, that burden, that stereotype threat, that stereotype consciousness that you have can take the skip right out of your gate. And that innocence is what helps us all, everyone, believe that the world is open to us because we're free and we can just be. And the more a teacher can give that to a child in their classroom, the more the child believes that the world is open to them and will definitely engage in academics because they believe that it's for them.
You actually might even need to expand the learning, because as an adult, sometimes I, as a black man, feel the constraints of society where I'm walking along the street and I see a white woman and I notice her clutch her purse, so I kind of move over to make her feel more at ease.
Yeah.
When I'm just doing nothing but walking, or when you're in a tight space in the elevator or something, and
Yep.
yeah, so there are a lot of layers to it.
Wouldn't it be great if we could grant everybody in the world this innocence? Just grant it to them. Give it to them right away. Like, see their humanity first. And it's human nature, of course, to act based on what you've experienced or what you've seen. But I feel like we take it to a different level. We take it to a different level. We don't grant the people around us, the good, amazing, beautiful people, the teachers, the students, the me, the you, all of it. We don't grant the people around us the innocence that they deserve.
So now, you didn't start in education.
No.
Your career background. What's your career background?
So I'm a lawyer by trade. But I kind of like to think of myself as a peacemaker by heart, which isn't the best quality for a lawyer, or it's not a very valued quality in a lawyer.
I don't know. Sometimes those divorces, you want a peacemaker.
True. But I don't know if the parties want a peacemaker,
Right.
but they want somebody that's going to fight for them. And I do believe in fighting. I do believe in fighting for that which I think is right. But at heart, I'm truly a peacemaker. And so 4 years ago, I joined Innocent Technologies and Innocent Classroom because I believed that it was the only organization that's out here really in reality, that's grounded in reality, and really creating and transferring this sense of innocence, love, humanity, and freedom. Like really, really preaching it and really, really living it. And then also just really positively impacting disparities consistently. I see it happening every day. I do some training. I'm vice president, but I do training. I do community development. I talk with lots of teachers. I engage with them. And so I see it happening every day. And what I love about it is that it does it through relationship, which we all talk about how great it is to have relationships, but Innocent Classroom isn't just relationship for relationship's sake. It's not to make people feel good and, spread love. And, yeah, we want to spread love, but we want to have, the relationship has to do something. It has to impact these disparities. It has to transform students' academic engagement. And that's why we focus on relationship. And that's why I joined, because it really is transferring these relationships into learning and growth so that children actually really truly believe that the world is open to them, especially our Black kids, our kids of color, all our kids of color. And so I joined 4 years ago, and I believe so much in this work because I'm the product of it. I had a teacher in high school. I went to Blake, which is a local independent school, and I joined Blake in the 10th grade. And I had a teacher, Miss Runyon, who actually saw me. When I joined this school, I was, I was one of those people who just kind of got quiet in places where I was uncomfortable. Because I didn't want to be seen as the loud, angry Black woman, the Black girl. And this is in 10th grade. Right. And Miss Runyon, she saw me. She saw who I was. And she didn't allow me to keep myself invisible. And having her as my teacher who really saw me helped me really, truly understand what it meant to belong in a space and what it really, truly felt like to be innocence. And it was transformational for me. It was, in that time, it was when I started to engage in learning with passion and curiosity. When I had this teacher who saw me, pulled me out, really created space for me to believe that I belonged in this space and I wasn't the affirmative action student, Right. And that learning and curiosity was for me.
Okay. Now, you all have an event coming up. Is this correct?
Yes, we do. We have an event coming up on September 25th. Okay. And it's called Closing the Relationship Gap, How to Address Invisible Barriers to Student Success. It's September 25th from 4 to 5:30 at the Center for Equity and Culture, which is at Washington Technology Magnet School in St. Paul, 1495 Rice Street in St. Paul. And it's going to be a great conversation with leaders in districts. There's principals. We have a principal, B. Lee, who's at Jackson Elementary. Steve Unowski, who is the superintendent of Richfield Public Schools, is going to be there, as well as, let me get my names straight. I want to make sure I say them right. Dr. Carly Baker, who's superintendent of Brooklyn Center Community Schools. Christina Gonzalez, who's the director of Student Support Services for Richfield Public Schools, and Dr. Lori Putnam, who's the assistant superintendent of secondary education for St. Cloud Public Schools. So we'll have this great panel come together and talk about the power of student-educator relationships to transform a student's narratives around school. So we're excited.
Is the panel open to the public?
It is open to the public. However, you do have to register.
Okay.
So if you would like to register, feel free to email me at adebisi@innocenttech.com, and it's ADEBISI at innocenttech, INNOCENTTECH.com.
Okay. And for the website, though, the website is innocentclassroom.com.
That's right. The website is innocentclassroom.com.
Okay. Sounds great. So we absolutely appreciate you being here and talking about this, like, immensely important and, to use your word, transformative work. We really appreciate what you're doing for our youngest people out there who need us to be looking out for them at every turn. And so we truly appreciate that. So thank you so much for all that you are doing.
Thank you for having me.
It is our pleasure. And you mentioned that you started in Omaha, Nebraska. The opening music that we have is an artist. Her name's Liz Gray. She went to the U, and she's from Omaha, Nebraska.
Awesome.
So we are going to take it from back to front to back.
There we go.
Here it is. This is Liz Gray. The song is called Free Exchange. This is the Front Room Sessions at the Marcus Garvey House in North Minneapolis, presented by Insight News. I am your host for the day, Harry Colbert Jr. This conversation will be online on our Facebook page, our Twitter, and also our website, www.insightnews.com. Thank you for tuning in.
Your kiss, my love, it's a free